What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is Wednesday, which of course means it's time for another West York Wednesday here on the channel. And the beer I'm reviewing today once again comes from the Big Ditch Brewing Company, and they're out of Buffalo, New York. And this is their Bourbon Barrel Aged Café Aqueduct, the 2022 release. So they're calling this one a Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout that is aged in Willett bourbon barrels with coffee and hazelnuts. It comes in at 10.9% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review. This bottle is approximately 1 month old. Now, last week I reviewed the base of this beer, just the Bourbon Barrel Aged Aqueduct, and it is right now, to date, one of my favorite no-frills Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stouts, period, here in the West New York area that has ever been released. It's just everything I kind of wanted in a Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout, and it was just really delicious. So I have 3 other variants to review, and this is the first of the 3. The other 2 I'm going to share with a couple good friends of mine and fellow beer tubers, Dan and Mike over at FLX Beer Reviews. Probably review them in a couple months or so. But I wanted to get this one out because it has coffee in it, and you know, coffee tends to fade. So it says Erie Canal aqueducts were designed to carry canal towpaths over adjacent rivers and roads. This flavored version of our newest Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout was first aged in a Willett bourbon barrel, or in a Willett bourbon barrels, plural. They fucked that up. In a Willett bourbon barrel before conditioning on hazelnuts, as well as coffee from Public Espresso in Buffalo, New York. The result adds additional nutty and roasty flavors, as well as a light sweet finish to our rich and roasty stout. Cool. Crack this one open here. So I'm hoping that, you know, this is just as good as last week's offering, but, you know, with the addition of coffee and hazelnuts, which I find are a great, you know, flavor pairing, to be honest with you. Try to get a good head here if I can. Kind of a hard pour. All right, decent. Wow, that's pretty fucking good. A little bit cheating there, but it needs to be done. So, yeah, that is in the glass. It's pitch black. Pouring out, it was like more of a really deep dark brown, but it's pitch glass. Pitch black in the glass. Hashtag proper glassware too. Got the Big Ditch. Just under a finger of a dark brown, super creamy looking head. Decent alcohol legs, but that, I mean, be honest with you, in the Big Ditch glass, looks beautiful. Anyway, let's get a nose. Nice. So it does smell a little bit sweeter than the base. Has a sweet bourbon kind of essence to it, more so than the base. Yeah, there's sweet bourbon, there's like molasses, there's caramel, there's toffee, big, rich, decadent sweet flavors, sweeter like dark chocolate. But then I'm getting this nice roasty coffee along with the roasted malt to the base. And then a slight nuttiness that is a bit sweeter, like a hazelnut, like kind of like Nutella. It has like a hazelnut kind of spread to it. If they made like a coffee Nutella, do they? If they don't, I feel like that'd be pretty cool. But that's kind of what I'm getting. There's a big blast of vanilla too, probably from the barrels. It's almost giving me like a nice mocha vibe. This does smell sweeter than the base. Now, the base, I thought the sweetness was kind of, I don't say perfect, but pretty damn good. It wasn't like overbearing. And as I finished that bottle, it didn't become too much. Every single sip was rich. It was decadent, but it just wasn't too much. And that's sometimes, you know, certain Imperial Stouts and adjunct beers and beers with sweeter flavoring additions, they sometimes become too sweet as you continue to drink on it. This one, not so much. I mean, the base. This one, I don't know because I haven't tasted it. All right, as it opens up in the glass, and this is right out of my darker beer fridge at 54. So it's at a, you know, it's cool but not cold. But as it opens up, the hazelnuts kind of come to the forefront more. Anyway, let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Nutella for days. Nutella for days. Wow. That's really good. But I'll tell you right now, a couple problems I have with it that's going to stop it from, at least in my opinion, being as good as the base. We'll get into that momentarily. Let's go body mouthfeel. One thing they've said about this year's release of the Aqueducts, they used to have a series called Towpath, which I've reviewed on the channel. I've reviewed a couple different variants. I reviewed the base. They wanted this one to be a little bit more thicker, more viscous, a little bit more intense, right? And I think they've accomplished that with this new recipe, which is why they changed. I appreciate too that they changed the name from Towpath to Aqueduct because they wanted to differentiate between the two, right? Now it's not the same thing. It's a different recipe. They tried to improve it, and they have. So the body, like lower side of full, medium full, almost 11%. It might be a touch thin for some. I think it's pretty fantastic, honestly. It has almost a slight oily feel on the palate as well. The mouthfeel, firm, moderate carbonation, but there's a smoothness on the palate, a little bit of creaminess as well. The taste, here's what's going to stop this from being as good, for me anyway, as the base. This is definitely sweeter. This is almost pastry-esque, where the base didn't have that issue. After 3 or 4 sips already, starting to feel the pronounced sweetness. I do think like about halfway through this bottle, it'll be a bit cloying for me. I'm already starting to feel like it's going to be. But the tastes are, like the flavor profile is fantastic. So right at the forefront and carrying on through, omnipresent, but never the biggest note, but definitely there at all times. There is this Nutella-esque kind of feel to it. The hazelnuts are prominent. There's a big, nice, like dark chocolate feel to it. And that's all over the palate. That's coating it. Well, that's a good way to say it. Like coats the palate, then you get the other flavors after. But it's definitely there. Well, Nutella vibes. But at the front of the palate, in addition to that, you get a nice roasted malt that turns into a roasted coffee kind of feeling to it. The coffee isn't that big in this, and I think and here's another problem I'm having with it, is I wanted the coffee to be a little bit more prominent, where I think the hazelnuts are kind of dominating between the two adjuncts. The coffee is there. As it passes through, molasses, caramel, toffee. There are huge, like sweet, robust characters in this one. There is like a sweet black cherry. Yeah, there's definitely like a black cherry to some degree. That's all at the front of the palate. As it passes through and continues on, the bourbon hits, and halfway to 2/3 of the way through the palate, and it's a sweet bourbon, which is more like a peppery bourbon, but it's more of a sweet bourbon. There's a little bit of vanilla mixing in. There's not really any oak tannins here, or like an oak kind of feeling on the palate. But definitely bourbon-esque. And I think that just ramps up the sweetness. This finishes with a very light dryness and almost no bitterness. And I think, again, that's problem number 3. There's really no bitterness. It's too sweet, not enough bitterness. The thing is that this fucking tastes better than the base to me. Like, I love that Nutella vibe. I like the sweet, decadent, rich, deep, sweeter notes from the malt character. I just need some kind of balance when it comes to beers like this. It's a little bit unbalanced for me. But there's also a little bit like a dark grape kind of feel as well. The thing is that the flavors are immaculate. They're just like so good. At each sip I go back, I'm like, man, do I really care about the sweetness? Yeah, I do. Because this is 10.9%. Warming into the chest, no stressing on the palate, hides the alcohol extremely well at almost 11%. So there's a lot of pros, there's a couple cons. And the reason why when you review a beer like this, or any beers, I feel like you owe it not only to yourself, but the viewers out there, to let you know how I feel about this one, either positively or negatively. You have to, take the good with the bad. And I think with a beer like this, there's a lot of good here, but there's a couple things that can be perceived as negative depending on who you are. And for me, it's a little bit too sweet. There's not enough bitterness. And I think I want a little bit more coffee. I think those are like the 3 things kind of stopping this from getting a real high score. It's still going to get a good score because I love the flavor profile. I've mentioned that now like a half dozen times. It cannot be understated how much I like this beer. Or overstated, I guess. Yeah. Pour a little more into my glass because I think I'm going to drink the rest of this tomorrow. But we're going to do something like this. That should be enough for me. And that's perfect. That's about half the bottle. This will be enough, for me for tonight. I'll drink the rest tomorrow, assuming, everything holds up well overnight. I'll get the stopper and everything. But Bourbon Barrel Aged Café Aqueduct, the 2022 release from Big Ditch. I think I gave the base like a 4.5, which I think is, again, let me smell it out of the bottle here. Yeah, it smells really good. I'm going to give this beer, though. Yeah, I got to knock it down a quarter point, I think. I'm going to give this a low 4.25. I'm going to go 4.2. I think this is good, but I like the barrel aged just base better. It just, for me personally, and everybody's going to be different, but this is a really good beer. Just a bit too sweet, not enough bitterness, and I'd like the coffee to be a little bit more in my face. But it's a personal preference. to each their own. Price and availability. This was $14.05 for a bottle, 16.9 ounce bottle, special release. It's under $1 an ounce. I think that's fine. Some folks out there probably don't want to pay that, but it is 11% Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout with 2 different adjuncts. I don't think that's bad. Certainly not in this economy. Availability. This is available only at the brewery as far as I know. They don't even ship these bottles, so if you're not in the Buffalo, New York area and you can't get to the brewery, you can't get them. You can order them online and go to the brewery and pick them up, but they do not ship them. I should have checked before I reviewed this what was left on their website about a week ago. They still had the base and the 3 variants I have. The only one they sold out of was the port barrel variant, which kind of disappointing. I wanted to try that one, but outside of that, they had all the variants. I don't know what they have now, if they have anything, but that was the only way you could get this one. So if you're in the Western New York area and you've picked this one up and you've tried it, what did you think about it? Did you try all of the variants along with the base? What was your favorite? I'd love to hear from you. The other 2 I have is their rare and their double barrel, both of which, again, I will share with the FLX guys probably early next year, probably like February or March or something. We did that earlier this year with the 2020 rare and double barrel, and those are 2 of the best beers that I've had from Western New York, period. They were delicious, but we'll see how the newer releases are. So huge thanks to everybody stopping by for another Western New York Wednesday. Check back next week. I don't know if I'm doing a Western New York Wednesday, or maybe I'll do a whodunit beer review. Still got 3 or 4 in the fridge that I need to get to at some point. I just had so many other beers I got to get to from beer mails and stuff that the whodunits can wait, because it's not like you got a super fresh hop forward beer that you got to drink. It's whodunit. You don't know what it is. Anyway, till the next one. Cheers.